The brain is the most complex organ and incredible piece of the human body. The brain is full of activity in many different groups of neurons that are responsible for our body's reactions. This malleable organ is what makes us all human. The human brain is responsible for forming how we perceive things in the physical world around us by our life experiences and memories. This is why our brain is able to encode, store, and recall information for us inside of our heads. Memories are formed when specific types and classes of neurons are reactivated. When you learn something that you've never learned before, your brain physically changes. This physical change that helps you to be able to remember such things is because of the brain's plasticity, which enables the brain to take in information and then shape it in order to retain it. There are many different types of memory that range from knowing a certain thing for a lifetime to forgetting it about 10 minutes later. When talking about memory, people usually refer to sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. Sensory memory, which is the shortest element of memory, comes through all of your senses, which are sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. When looking at something and only studying it for a second and then trying to recall it is an example of sensory memory. Sensory memory acts like a filter to short-term memory, which is stored in the prefrontal cortex. Short-term memory allows the brain to remember a small amount of information that it has prioritized from sensory memory for a small amount of time. Although it may seem useful, these memories will soon disappear, unless our brain makes the effort to retain the information we processed and encode them deeper into our brain. This makes it possible for us to recall short-term memories and pull information back. This leads us to higher memory retention, in which we can store these memories in the long-term memory. The long-term memory is stored throughout the cortex and has more permanent storage and endless retention because of its unlimited capacity. Other memories that go deep into long-term memory are implicit and explicit memories. Implicit memory is located in the cerebellum. This type of memory is the unconscious memory and the skills on how to do things. These memories get stored in the brain through repetition and practice, such as tying your shoes or riding a bike. Explicit memory, otherwise known as declarative memory, is formed by facts and events. Examples like, what did you do last night? Where were you born? These memories can be consciously recalled. These memories consist of information that can be stored in your brain and be retrieved whenever you need it. Recalling memories is reaccessing events or information from the past, which have been previously encoded in the brain and stored for later. Your brain works really hard when you are trying to recall memories because you are trying to recall something that isn't present, which requires your brain to try and dig and uncover information. According to the famous neuroscientist David Eagleman, how the brain stores and recalls memories is through network associations. He explains this by sharing how everything that you learn is in relation to other things that you already know, such as smelling a cup of coffee triggers the activity in your brain to picture what it looks like, feels like, and also what it tastes like. This is an example of recognition with memory retrieval, in which an event or stimulus reminds a person of something they previously experienced. When we retrieve memories from our brain, a lot of the memory activity for recalling is found in the hippocampus. Depending on the level of hippocampal activity in the brain will decide how much of an event or memory that a person can remember vividly. As our brain tries to recall a memory, we immerse ourselves in the experience we had in the past and try to remember it by replaying it in our heads. Have you ever wondered why our brain chooses to do such things and what makes your brain impact your decisions and judgments? This is a result of memory bias. Not all of your memories are treated equally. Memory bias is a cognitive bias that chooses to either enhance your memory, impair your memory, or even alter the original content of your memory. There are tons of memory biases that can impact your memories in either positive or negative ways. Cognitive bias is a systematic error in thinking which affects your decisions and decides how you're going to judge things. The way you remember one event may be biased due to a number of reasons that can lead you to biased thinking and biased decision making. These biases are a result of your brain trying to simplify information processing. When you are making judgments and decisions about the world and what you see around you, your brain tends to try and be logical and capable of taking in valuable information and then evaluating it. However, sometimes biases trip us up and can lead to poor decisions and bad judgments. However, bias also can help the brain simplify situations when trying to make a quick decision. Because of all the information around the world, taking in mental shortcuts can allow us to act quickly. Each bias serves as an adaptive purpose to reach decisions quickly. Like if you're facing a scary or life-threatening situation, you'll need your biases to evaluate the situation. For example, you're walking down a dark alleyway and a dark shadow is following you. Your cognitive bias might lead you to assume that it is a mugger and you need to run and exit the alley as soon as possible. The dark shadow, however, could have just been an alley cat, but we're relying on the mental shortcuts that biases can get you out of the way from dangerous situations where decisions need to be made quickly. Biases can heavily impact the way you recall your memories and affect your story and how you retell it. Here are some biases that work with your memory. Rosy retrospection bias. This is a bias that tends to make you recall a memory as being better than it actually was. For example, a lot of people get back together with their partners that are far from ideal because they forget about the bad experiences that they had a while ago with that person. Fading affect bias. This is when feelings associated with negative memories fade away more quickly than the feelings associated with positive experiences. This is that let's do it again feeling. Like recalling all the fun aspects of an event like a wild night, but forgetting all the negative parts that actually happened on that wild night. Humor affect bias. This is when you remember things more easily because things you find funny are more easily remembered than the boring memories. You might not remember a long, boring lecture from a teacher versus remembering a lecture from a teacher who throws in a few good laughs. This is because things we find humorous are more easily remembered. Because humor requires increased cognitive processing time to understand it, and because it's linked with emotional arousal.